To a large extent, the budget reflects reality to a very large extent. I think that we are not out of the woods yet as a country, because largely we have made some progress. I mean, if you look at the statistics, but of course, if you look at overall GDP, it looks quite improved. But of course, when you look at the decomposition, we see mixed results in terms of some of the subsectors. And that is also a fact in terms of water, sewage, electricity, and all of that. So we see some of those mixed performance from the sub-categorization. But overall, as a country, we've made some progress. The question is, could we have done better? And I think we could have done better. When you look at the way the budget has been positioned, especially for 2020, you can see clearly it has embraced the 2020 election. And therefore, the benchmark for comparison is essentially the previous government. And because that benchmark looks particularly weak, when you compare what we are doing now to that, it portrays that we have done very, very well. But it's simply because that benchmark was particularly weak. So if we had to compare ourselves to the Mahama administration, it may suggest that we have done extraordinarily well and we are likely to start pumping champagne. But I think that we should have a better benchmark to do so, because Ghana, despite the progress that we have made, we are growing far below our potential. We have a negative output, a gap that we have to be able to close to the benefit of Ghanaians. We have seen some level of progress, especially in terms of the macro level variables, because it's no longer the talk in town, because inflation is stable, exchange rate is stable, interest rate is heading downwards, and all of that. So once you see all of that, the human tendency is to look beyond that and then look at how these things are reflecting in the pocket of Ghanaians. Apart from the tax revisions, and some, of course, will result in savings in the pocket of ordinary Ghanaians. It may not be that much, but if you look at it within the overall context of government financial management, it may seem a lot to government because we don't have physical space to do a lot of things. And when you look at from where the opposition is coming from, I think I also agree to some extent, because if you look at the way the non-oil real sector is responding, it's not doing quite well. And the reason also is because government is not spending appropriately when it comes to capital spending, infrastructure. And that is a problem, and that is a fact. The data speaks to that largely. And the reason, and this is not intentional, and it's not peculiar to the MPP alone. You can look at this right from 2012, 2013, 2014, 15, 16, and all of that. Because when you see the growth in expenditure, especially wages and salaries, broadly compensation of employees, and then you look at the growth in our interest payment, these two items alone have taken almost all the space, and that leaves nothing, practically nothing, for government to do infrastructure financing, which is needed in enhancing the growth drivers of the economy. And where I think government should do better has to do with our revenue side, because the expenditure remains elevated. But so far, the government revenue envelope has failed to respond to the numerous tax measures. You can look at it from 2017, look at that from 2018, look at that from 2019, and I doubt, I have some level of reservations, government will be able to achieve those revenue targets in an election year where data suggests to a large extent that compliance levels are usually not that high in an election year.
And that is a key point that I'll come
so
to substantively.
we are not out of the woods yet. And I don't envy the finance minister, because he doesn't have flexibility within the budget. The level of rigidity is so high, and we have not been able to do much about that in the last 3 years.